Hi, my name's David Blissett, and in this week's video, we're going to be detailing or documenting some of the work that's taken place between June and September 2021. All right, let's get into it. So, what are we looking at here? In the previous month's work, what we had done, we primarily focused on maybe like a single level and trying to vary that level. So you have a level where you have a very constrained workspace and another one where you have a higher ceiling and more room to actually work with. And once we actually got that done, and this is going back months ago now, the next bit was to start expanding on that and then having entrance and exit points to go between the different sections or different levels, as it were. And so what you're looking at here now, while I'm actually trying to work through the network there, is the solution that I came up with in terms of the algorithms to actually be able to generate the level, generate entrances and exits, and then also have those exits and entrances match based on level X going to level Y, right? So that's the routine. So you just seen the routine go through and take all the levels and line them up. It's quite interesting how we came about with that, because one of the things that you note is, well, you don't exactly know where the levels will overlap depending on the size and the structure, right? And so you probably do a bit of minimal rework to actually get that going. But what you're looking at here now, obviously you've got the blue levels or the blue sections of the level where you'd have like portals. The green sections is entrance, and the red section's going to be exits, right? One thing that I noticed as I was going is like, hold on there, why doesn't that exactly line up? Now, while you in the play space itself, it doesn't feel wrong, but looking at it from this kind of elevated view, it's like it doesn't appear to line up. But the doors are either on the right hand side or to the left hand side, but they're not dead straight on. And so when you actually get the points to meet, they're calculated based on the center of the entrance space, right? And so once they do snap together, that's the kind of end result. So let's just go back to the wireframe, right? The whole principle is that once it actually does come together, it's like either a happy accident or something that needs to be fixed. Ideally, you probably don't even really want to have a starting section meeting up with the ending section, i.e. the green and the reds like that. Ideally, you probably just go from the level exit, there's a door, and you go into the next level. But the vision was always to have that kind of approach with the entrance and an exit type principle. So yeah, this is where we are right now. I mean, once we actually got this functioning, the next thing to do was to actually get it into Unity and then get it onto the device so that you could actually kind of feel what the play space feels like, and that's what we're going to be detailing in the second half of this video. Right now I'm just trying to document where we're leaving things as far as Houdini is concerned, primarily because, well, at the moment I'm not going at the working on the game in anger. Right now, because the government's lifted restrictions, because of the pandemic, one would think that the logical thing to do is to take advantage of that and make hay while the sun shines, as it were. We don't know how long this things are going to be eased up like that. And so, I've been focused to take on some contract for hire work, especially because now this kind of work can be done remotely. And so it's like, yeah, who knows what things are going to look like in the next couple of months. It's been a year and a half of lockdown. Nobody planned for that, and so yeah, this is where we are. So this is the Houdini side of the equation, and we've been doing that to death. And so now we're gonna pause the video here, and I'm gonna go from Unity over onto the headset, and then we're just gonna kind of walk through the environment. Or at least one of the levels, as it were, just to show where things are and document that, we were at that. I mean, we were probably at that play space maybe about 2 months ago, but I've just been full on with other things, and so this is the first time I've had to be able to actually document where things are. So I'm going to stop the video here now and pick things up on the Oculus side. All right. Okay, and we're back. So this is the environment that we just walked through over in Houdini, and it's been optimized to a certain degree. There's still some work that needs to go in on, general cleanup, but you can work through the level, right? And so it's like you're not going to show all levels at the same time. Remember when I'm talking about those trigger box or trigger volumes that will need to come into play? Things like that is where the next bit of energy is going to go as far as the game development is concerned. Maybe being able to pace a bit faster through the level itself. So right now, if you notice, there are no weapons, right? A matter of fact, you can actually see the stars outside, right? So I know that the door placements when coming through from Houdini, that still needs some cleanup work going on. If you look in front of me here now, you can see through the floor. So the geometry, when I was actually cutting out the geometry, so these sections here could be placed. Those kinds of things are going to need to kind of get filled out. And then we have some Z fighting going on here. You see that? I'm looking at the floor here, and so there's geometry on top of geometry. Remember, everything's been procedurally generated. So there's still work that needs to go on in Houdini to make sure that the placements of the geometry don't have those kinds of flickering going on. So even as I'm going to this section here now, you can see this flickering that's going on. That is not deliberate. And so, it is what it is. When you're doing these procedural things, a lot of the placements, you're doing them kind of, you're forecasting. It's been done blindly, and you'd hope that you don't run into these kinds of scenarios. But these are the kinds of things that I'll need to kind of clean up before kind of moving forward. There you go over there. You can see some Z fighting going on. But it's just the nature of the work. But this is where we are. So if I'm saying that I started this 2 years ago, and kind of stopped in July, and it's September now. Yeah, I'm gonna have to kind of pick this up and just kind of enhance things, as it were. But the larger bit of the work, in terms of saying that you have a play space that you could reuse for multiple projects, really, just changing the prefabs that you're going to actually be placing. So even whatever you're seeing here, everything that you're seeing has been placed in a procedural fashion. Nothing has been manually placed within the level itself. Let's see if we can pick up the speed in terms of how we're working through this. So this is pretty nice. I mean, if you can appreciate that, this is a single developer working on this, and being able to actually achieve something like this, you could actually do something like this faster, right? So say, for example, if you're saying, okay, fine, I'm only going to have an arena, and in the arena I'm going to allow fighters to fight. It's a single camera, you don't have multiple levels, it's just a case of spawning the fighters to come into the arena. Something like that you'd do a lot faster. So one of the learning points that I take away from this is, if you're thinking about doing anything within the VR space, pick your battles wisely. you're not going to look on a game like Doom or, one of these larger, Halo type fashions and think, hey, let me start working on a game like that tomorrow. But again, how can I put it? I've never built a game from scratch until taking this on. And so I should probably call this game COVID 20 or something, because it was the having the ability to be locked away in home and not do anything else forced me to put my energies into being productive, right? Not wasting time, learning, and taking advantage of that time, as it were. And so I would say, outside of the fatalities and the unfortunate nature of what's actually going on, there is a plus point for those who were willing to take advantage of that time. There are a lot of other things that I could have potentially been doing, like machine learning or something like that. But machine learning would then force you to have to be thinking about getting into a corporate space where you're going to be locked down to a cubicle, because it's the larger players that are playing with machine learning, and while they do potentially have a work from home culture, they're going to be few and far between. And while those are great opportunities and they do pay well, I'm at a point in my life where, while it'd be great to be focused for money, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be on the planet. So it's like I'd probably prefer putting my energy into making a game, because hey, it was a thought of being in gaming why I even started looking at computer science 30 years ago now, right? So I'd have been 13 getting my first PC and Windows 3.1. And so Microsoft, even though I've had, different employers, Microsoft has been my primary employer. And even today, right now, jumping into technologies like Blazor, it's just a kind of like a long continuity from basic to Visual Basic to C Sharp. And C Sharp being such a versatile language, even what I'm doing here now, what we're seeing in terms of this environment, the code behind here is C#.net, right? So very versatile language, and big thanks to Bill Gates for sharing the vision with his initial startup team. I do not know where that weird shadow is coming from in this environment, but right, okay, yes, there's some kind of an offset there. If you look, you can see that the hands are throwing shadows way off in the distance. So that's something I got to note on Trello. But anyways, listen, if you've been monitoring what I've been doing, or if you just stumble across this while seeing somebody doing game development online, very rewarding. It's probably one of the most difficult things you could do. If you're at school and you're thinking, hey, I want to make games because I like playing them, I want you to think twice. This is one of the most difficult engineering disciplines that are going out there. And while playing games is fun, there are other words that you can use to describe game development, and fun is not one of them. It is a strong discipline, and how can I say, having the experience of working with Microsoft Technologies past 30 odd years, and then within a corporate space for the last 21, 22 years, gave me a foundation to be able to look on not only the coding aspect, but also the design aspect. You start from first principles, break everything down into its smallest chunk, and start working it back up. I think they call that, is it Jackson's structured programming or something like that? So you have many different paradigms, waterfall, and right now I'm doing agile, which is, once you get into that thought process, it's like going back is kind of difficult, to doing the forecasting with project plans and trying to, chunk up a 2-year project into a project document. But how can I say? if you didn't go through the corporate environment, and then you were to leave university and jump straight into game development, that is hats off to you. That is quite a leap, as it were. But I would say, seeing what the youngsters are doing today, coming into whether it be web development or just coding in general, you know, what would require 30 to 60 developers 20 years ago, a single developer is doing that today. Developers don't necessarily have database administrators standing over their shoulder, or working in the background to make the database there so that you can actually start working on store procedures and things like that. Things have changed so much, while at the same time staying the same. So it's still about coding. It's still all about being able to do that engineering type experience. But how can I say it? I would say that the syntax has definitely become more sophisticated in to a certain degree, unnecessarily so. I mean, things like Entity Framework 6 I was working with back in 2013, 2014. We've just gone through Entity Framework Core and coming out to like .NET 5 now, where we're going to be stop talking about Core as far as .NET. And they've still got the same problems, and that's like the last 7 years ago, right? And so it's like, as developers or engineers, we want to kind of choose our battles. I'm using old school techniques to resolve certain complexities that are only there because of, somebody's trying to be too clever, as it were, right? To a certain degree, you might classify it as over engineering, but as a .NET developer, the first 15 years or the first 10 years without Entity Framework, we were using ADO.NET, and we could hit the database and get the data back, wrap it up in a data set and work data tables, and it was perfect. You didn't spend time thinking about the syntax and how you work with your database. Whereas today, you have this principle of a code first approach, where you don't have your database administrator, you're working with entities. It's like you're spending more time thinking about syntax than you are about the actual business domain function, right? So like I said, over engineering, but it is what it is. Time moves on, and you might want to think, the way we did things back in the day was better. But for the young guys, how can I say it? As a new developer, you always want to jump in and work with the new tools, play with all the toys, and just be on the cusp of what's available to work with as far as technology is concerned. But listen, I just went from game development design to reviewing the environment and jumped over to corporate type spiel as far as technologies are concerned. We're going to shut things down for now, but the whole purpose of the kind of review, it's been like 3.5 months, and I didn't kind of do any documentation of where things were. So when it came to actually, it's a weekend here now, and when it came to actually have a look on what's been done, it's a lot of head scratching. These kinds of tools, if you don't use them, you lose that knowledge, which is like anything else. So the whole principle was to kind of just start documenting some of the optimization steps that were required, noting any kind of bugs. If you look here, I can see through the geometry to the outside environment, which, not happy about that. So I'm going to need to cater for that within Houdini and do some exports. But we're going to wrap things up here for now. Again, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you've been following this kind of journey, it's not easy. It's not easy. But I'm thinking once I get some zombies moving around within this environment and the actual weapons, so we can shoot at them, that should be bringing together like a couple of years worth of effort. And so the aspect of that should be pretty rewarding in its own right. But again, I'd like to thank you for watching, and if you've got any thought process on what we've done so far, go ahead and pop a comment down for us. I wouldn't mind getting a like, a bit of motivation to keep us going. But in any regards, I'm going to shut things down there, and I will see you next time. Thanks again.